The Cardinals, listen, as we sit here today, they have their rotation in place. Yet, I'm getting correspondence. Bernie, you think they're going to go after Blake Snell? Come on, please. Please, I just say that as your friend. Don't do it to yourself.
Or do it with the next guy.
Not a chance. Oh. Not a chance. Jordan Montgomery, I would even say not a chance, although I guess there'd be at least a very thin thread that they're connecting him to the Cardinals because of he was a Cardinal he'd like to hear, but that's about it. And I don't think that his mom's friends with Newt Barr's mom or whatever. So could be wrong. Anyway,
I'm sorry. Well, it's got to be Snell. We were getting Yamamoto, but we're going to get Snell. Come on, people. Oh boy.
Yeah, old boy is right. So we're waiting to see what they're going to do with the reliever market, which still has not really shaken loose at all. Shelby Miller did sign with where did he sign? I saw it. Detroit.
Yes, he is a Detroit Tiger. That is correct.
Two former Cardinals and down there now, or up there now in Motown, Jack Flaherty and Shelby Miller. Shelby Miller revived his career as a reliever last year. Good strikeout rate. I'm not saying he's ideal, but he had some stuff going, really positive way. So we'll wait and see what the Cardinals are going to do in terms of trying to bring in some elite relief help. Except I'm to the point where I can't assume they're going to do that. They'll bring in relievers, but we don't know what kind of level, and that's a damn shame because we know that they need somebody really outstanding because they are totally nuts in a baseball way. If they think it's like, oh yeah, Helsley's good to go, yeah, he'll be all right. We can count on him, start to finish.
3 times a week, every week.
Yeah, we may give him a breather, but no, we don't have any concerns. I think they do have concerns. They're not going to voice them. But if they don't do something to, in effect, address those concerns by building up some protection for the high-leverage ninth inning role, eighth inning role, you want to call it, because last year when Helsley was out, it's like, oh, that's all right. We got Gallegos. Well, how'd that work out? First of all, he's not a closer, and that's number one. Number two, by his standards, he really had a big-time decline last season in his stuff and in his strikeout rate and in the hard hit rate against. So the Cardinals got to spend some money and they need a real rock and roller in that bullpen that can fill in when Helsley's out. Because I don't want to say if, it's like when he's out.
Right.
But if they want to continue to, there's certain things about him I just don't understand. I mean, and that's one of them. It's like, okay, I love Gallegos. Think he's been a great Cardinal. But you all just think that the guy last year isn't who he is right now. That's all right. In 2024, we'll get the 2019 version. Well, why would you think that? Because by then it's going to be 5 years later, after 2019, right?
Yep, exactly.
There's so much damn wish casting in that organization. And this is where you say, well, what are they going to do when it comes to spending and all these contracts, the proliferation of contracts? Well, when it comes to pitching, we already have our answer. And I'm going to belabor the point, but we have our answer. Because when do they spend big on starting pitching? When's the last time they did that? I mean, and we're not talking about Adam Wainwright and giving him $20 million or whatever the maximum was, because that was a great value for the team. And Wainwright being a guy that no bones about it. He wanted to continue to pitch for St. Louis until he was done, and St. Louis and the Cardinals mean a lot to him. And he took less money. And I'm not talking about this final year because he was done. He knew it. I'm talking about earlier in his career. I mean, he could have made more money elsewhere, but he said, no, I love being a Cardinal. So they were fortunate with that, and they're fortunate that Sonny Gray did not play hardball with them in negotiation. And Sonny Gray's going to get paid plenty of money, don't get me wrong. But the Cardinals just avoid the high end of the starting pitching market, and that Hey, that was the case when ever since they made a run at David Price, and at the last minute he signed with Boston, whatever. But we're talking about a whole new stratosphere of money anyway. And I don't as long as Bill DeWitt owns a team, you're just not going to see the Cardinals ever get involved with someone like chasing Yamamoto or chasing, name your elite starting pitcher. I think they knew Nola wanted to stay in Philly, but they weren't going to meet the price that other teams would have been willing to spend had Nola opted to turn free agent. And the same thing applies to so many of the starters. They are not going to get at that high end. They're not going to go visit the high end of that market for starting pitching. And now I'm wondering if they're going to avoid it in relief pitching. And so I'm not sure what to say about them because, well, I mean, other than to be say I'm critical of this and I'm disappointed because it's really going to be hard to compete at a level where they're at least going to give themselves the best chance to maybe contend for a championship again. And again, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, there's no guarantee. And I don't care if you're the Dodgers spending $2 billion on whoever. There's no guarantee once the tournament starts in October. You got to take your chances. But they're still in this frame of mind where it's like, well, we just got to get in and we'll take our chances. Now, listen, last season, the Rangers won the World Series, and their top two starters were Nathan Eovaldi and Jordan Montgomery in the postseason. Now, listen, no disrespect to either one of those gentlemen. They did a hell of a job. But we're not, that's not some like, wow, can you imagine having a number one and a number two like that? So my point is that I almost think Cardinals look at that and say, well, the Rangers won it with Eovaldi and Montgomery. That's not like two Cy Young guys. So why can't we do it? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but we'll save that for another time. So they're stuck in a time warp, and there's only one problem with the time warp, and I know I've talked about this a lot. But the time warp is that they used to be at the head of the pack as far as drafting and developing all kinds of pitching, starters and relievers. Remember heck, they wouldn't have won the World Series in 2006 if it wasn't for those young bullpen guys that they brought into the majors and the guys that they developed and the guys that they stuck in their bullpen in high leverage situations. Tyler Johnson, Jeff Kinney, Adam Wainwright. You had Lance Lynn as a rookie in 2011, helped him out a lot in the bullpen. And then you turn forward, then you had that run where you had drafted and developed just knockout punchers like Segrist and Rosenthal and the reliever Carlos Martinez. And who am I leaving out? I think there's somebody else. They just had a parade of these guys that could punch people out, threw hard, had nasty stuff, all drafted and developed by the Cardinals. So where are all these guys now? Whatever happened to that? The Cardinals there's a lot of ways to do it, but I don't want to read a lot of numbers to you. But they, in terms of the wins above replacement that they've gotten from rookie pitchers, there was a noticeable fall off. They were thriving there for a while. 2012 through 2018, let's say, where not just where they had Wacha was really good for a while. Then Jack Flaherty came in and Lance Lynn was a drafted and developed guy, first round pick, and so they had a lot of young players, homegrown players in the bullpen and in the rotation. They were doing some really great things, and that's why the Cardinals were able to make the playoffs in 12, 13, 14, 15, won 100 games in 2015. Then they leveled off a little bit. One of the reasons why they leveled off is because there's started to become diminishing returns. So they were like, in terms of rookie pitchers, and all these guys developed by the Cardinals. They had from 2012 through 2018, they were fourth in terms of wins above replacement by rookie pitchers. And then if you look at where they've been since 2020, it's like 16th, but it's dropping. I mean, it really dropped the last couple of years. And a couple of guys, who were first-round draft picks, that no longer are around, like Dakota Hudson's gone. Jack Flaherty's gone. They gave up on those guys. Diminishing returns. They weren't doing anything. Not much. Not in terms of being above average, league average, and above replacement level. Shelby Miller they traded away, and that was all right. Waka couldn't help it. He faded out because of the shoulder thing, and he sort of regrouped in his career, and I'm really happy for him. They don't draft and develop guys anymore. Not elite or even high caliber. I don't want to overuse the word elite, but not even high caliber starters and relievers do they draft and develop on their own. Halsey, I guess. But again, what are we talking about here? One really good, about a good season and a half as a Cardinal?
Yeah, so far.
And vulnerable.
Very much so.
Gallegos came in a trade. Who are some other relievers that they've run out there? Romero, one of the guys they're counting on, they got him in a trade. Good trade. Gave up Edmundo Sosa for him. That worked out all right. It's just there's a huge void in the organization, and as I've said a couple, 3-4 times over the last few weeks, if ownership management is unwilling to go shop on the high end of pitching in terms of starters especially, but also relievers, if they're unwilling to do that, they say, well, no, those prices are too much for us. Even though a lot of teams are just have no problem going for it. Well, if you're not going to do that, then you have to be drafting and developing really good pitchers, and not just one or two. You're going to have to draft and develop a lot of really good pitchers. Other than that, what are you going to do? Are you going to do what you did now for 2024? Well, we'll sign this guy to a one-year contract. We'll sign that guy to a one-year contract. Then next year, if we have to, we'll sign more guys to a one-year contract. Like, is that what we're talking about? You're going to go year to year like that? It's just, in other words, you got to make a choice, or one of two things has got to happen. In an ideal world, they would be drafting and developing really good pitching starter bullpen the way they used to, and they would be spending when a great opportunity comes along to get a guy who can be a mainstay, a really good mainstay in your rotation for a long time. In a perfect situation, ownership management would aspire to do both of those things. And they would do both of those things. Well, they're not going to do that because they're not going to go in the high end and deep end of spending. They're not going to do it. They're not going to go into Tiffany's, if you will, right?
Right, no doubt.
They'll go into they'll go take a look at Target, not Tiffany's, right?
That's exactly what they'll do. Look at these.
You're not going to see them shopping for David Yurman jewelry, right?
No, you won't.
No? Maybe Zales. And no disrespect to Zales. I'm just saying. But even some of the stuff in Zales would be like, oh, no. We don't want to spend that. Well, if you're not going to spend them, then what are you doing about drafting and developing pitchers and getting a really good supply in here? They don't have that right now. They're not even close. The shelves are pretty much barren, if you ask me. Unless Graceffo rebounds and becomes the big time arm they thought he'd be. Tink Hent's too early for me to tell, although the potential is really exciting. Michael McCreevy, okay, wow, might have another number 5 starter there. If everything breaks the right way, well, he could be a number 5 for you. I don't know, man. And then They made trades to get pitching prospects in here, and there is a chance that, 2 or 3 of those guys could pan out. We'll have to wait and see. You can't pass judgment on that now. So I don't know what they do. But what's going to change? What's not going to change is the fact that other teams are throwing down and competing hard for elite starting pitching on the open market. And that is a place where the Cardinals will not go. So they're going to have to get lucky with some of their bargain signings, or they're going to have to get up off their duffs, metaphorically speaking, and get back up to speed and join the modern age and take advantage of all the tools that there are, even if it means spending $5 or $6 million to put in a state-of-the-art pitching lab. My goodness, the Kansas City Royals do that.
Right?
They've just let this thing. It's like you have. I'm trying to use an analogy, and I'm bad at coming up with analogies. It's almost like having. You made it big. Your business was great. You built this wonderful house, and it was the envy of so many other homeowners. And just drive by but I wish we could have something like that. And that's what a lot of baseball teams and owners felt about Cardinals baseball. Boy, they got ahead of the curve on this stuff. They hired Luno. They're way advanced. They got a big jump on the industry. Boy, I wish we had our house in order like that. And the Cardinals, after taking all these bows, we're the Cardinals. We're smarter than all those other teams. Just look at us. Look at how good we are. You know what happened? The house started kind of showing some age, right?
Yeah.
House is like, well, what happened there? You drive by the house, that thing looks like it's in disrepair. It's looked like they haven't kept up the maintenance work on that. They haven't updated it. They haven't taken care of some of the necessities. Boy, it looks like it's almost kind of falling apart, ain't it? So I'm using the home analogy, but I think, and that's what's happened, and it's really depressing in a way because It reminds me of what Whitey Herzog said, one of the first interviews I did with him when I became a columnist at the Post-Dispatch in the summer of '89. I was in Montreal, and the Cardinals are in Montreal. And Whitey and I were talking about Anheuser-Busch and the fact that they're in a tough spot because Anheuser-Busch was really peeling back after the death of Gussie Busch. He put Fred Kuhlman in there, Ebenezer Kuhlman, as I called him. And they weren't going to spend money. They weren't going to let Dal Maxfield do anything because what we didn't know then and we knew now is they were gradually preparing to sell the club. So Whitey wasn't angry. He was I would say mournful. He said in '89 he knew what was coming. He saw it. He was a visionary. He says, you know what the damn shame is about this? They had the ideal thing. All these people filling a ballpark. Everyone loves the Cardinals. They're going to the World Series all the time. Won a World Series. Everybody's happy. Business is booming. And he said, why the hell would you want to kill the golden goose? Why would you kill the golden goose? And he was absolutely right. I shook my head and said, you're absolutely right. Well, what do you think's happening now? I don't know if they're killing it, but they're neglecting it. And that's going to lead to a demise of the old golden goose. I don't get it. How do they gain from that? I don't understand that. So it's like, here we go again, and I don't understand it. And I hope I'm wrong. Well, I hope that they change their ways and soon.
You're hopeful, but I mean, in terms of, how we started here they just don't develop any arms that they can rely on right now. And they're not going to go by, like you said. I mean, I just threw out some names on a sheet of paper here real quick, and I went, okay, they thought Hudson and Woodford were going to be contributors. They're not.
No,
they were
first-round picks, too.
Yep. Jordan Hicks, they ruined because they ruined him. And he finally found a way to be successful, and they had to move him. Flaherty got ruined because of injury. Then I'm going to throw three names out there and went, oh, my goodness, did they miss?
And they didn't handle the Flaherty injuries well.
No, very good point.
They let him call the shots.
Yep, they ruined him.
Stupid.
Anyway,
go ahead.
Three names that were going to be bullpen pieces. He's good. Seth Elledge, Cody Whitley, and Junior Fernandez were all going to be contributors.
Oh, yeah.
And they're nothing. And it's all on them.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. And there's probably even more to that list, too, right?
There's going to be more that I forgot about that never even got a sniff that we were told we're going to be up here at some point. It's just, it's all on them. They just haven't developed anything, really.
So I don't see how you listen. And I'll wrap it up on this by circling back a little bit. They're still in this mindset. It's like well, there's 6 teams that make the playoffs now. And all you got to do is get in, and then, hey, who knows what's going to happen. That's not wrong. I'm not saying it's the right way to go, but I'm saying their thinking isn't wrong because we are – look, man, I can't have it both ways. If I'm talking about how the Arizona Diamondbacks with 84 wins, how they got in and won the National League pennant, it just shows you, yeah, it's possible. So they're not talking nonsense. But that shouldn't be their attitude. That shouldn't be like, well, we just got to get in. And if that's your mindset where it's like you're hoping that randomness will go your way if you get into the postseason rather than trying to build a more capable team. That's the disappointing thing. What they're saying ain't wrong, but it ain't right in terms of that being your attitude.
Absolutely true.